there are moments in time when the energy shifts so quietly, yet so profoundly, that you may not even realize at first that something deeply karmic has begun to unfold. And this is one of those moments. The Capricorn moon we are moving through now is not just another lunar transit. It is acting like a gateway, a turning point, a kind of energetic checkpoint where the past meets the future, and where many of you are about to experience sudden and perhaps unexpected rewards for the inner work you've been doing. This is not about luck in the superficial sense. This is about alignment. It's about resonance. It's about the universe responding to a frequency you have been cultivating, often quietly, often without external validation. And now, under this Capricorn moon, something begins to crystallize. Capricorn as an energy is deeply connected to time, structure, mastery, and the long arc of growth. It is ruled by Saturn, the great teacher, the keeper of karmic timelines, and the planet that governs responsibility, integrity, and spiritual maturity. When the moon, our emotional body, our inner world, our subconscious moves through Capricorn, we are invited to bring emotional clarity to everything we have been building, everything we have been committing to, and everything we have been releasing. There is a grounding here, a stillness, but also a quiet power. You may have noticed in the days leading up to this a sense of emotional distance or introspection. Perhaps things have felt a little more serious, a little more reflective. You may have found yourself reviewing your life, your choices, your direction, your relationships with a kind of honesty that feels both sobering and liberating. That is the Capricorn influence. It doesn't deal in illusion. It gently but firmly brings us back to what is real, what is sustainable, and what truly matters. And yet, this particular Capricorn moon is not working in isolation. It is interacting with other planetary energies that are amplifying its significance. There is a subtle but powerful dialogue happening between structure and flow, between discipline and surrender. As planets move through Pisces, there is a dissolving of old emotional patterns, a softening of boundaries, and a deep spiritual cleansing taking place. Pisces invites compassion, forgiveness, and release. Capricorn, on the other hand, asks us to take responsibility for what remains. So what we have here is a beautiful balance. The ability to let go of what no longer serves you, while also stepping into a more aligned version of your purpose with clarity and intention. And this is why it can feel like a karmic shift, because many of you have been doing the inner work associated with these energies for quite some time now. You may have been setting boundaries where you once overextended yourself. You may have been choosing authenticity over approval. You may have been letting go of relationships, habits, or beliefs that once felt comfortable, but were no longer aligned with who you are becoming. This kind of work is not always visible. It often happens in quiet moments, in the decisions you make when no one is watching, in the thoughts you choose to release, in the courage it takes to walk a different path. And yet, it is precisely this unseen effort that Saturn recognizes. It is this consistency, this integrity that begins to generate what we might call karmic reward. Now, when we speak of sudden rewards, it's important to understand that they may not always appear in the way you expect. Capricorn energy tends to manifest in tangible ways, opportunities, recognition, stability, progress. But it also brings a deeper sense of inner authority, a feeling that you are standing on solid ground within yourself. You may find that something you've been working toward begins to gain momentum, or perhaps a door opens that seemed closed before. There may be a conversation, a realization, or even a moment of clarity that shifts your perspective in a way that changes everything. And because this is connected to a karmic cycle, it can feel almost as though things are falling into place with a kind of divine timing. But here is the gentle guidance I would offer you during this time. Stay present with what is unfolding without rushing to define it. Capricorn energy can sometimes bring a desire to control outcomes, to plan every step, to ensure that everything is moving in a predictable direction. And while there is great strength in being intentional, there is also wisdom in allowing space for the unexpected. especially when we are working with Pisces energy in the background, which reminds us that not everything needs to be understood immediately. So if something shifts for you, if an opportunity arises, if an emotion surfaces, if a situation resolves in a way you didn't anticipate, take a moment to breathe into it. Allow yourself to receive without overanalyzing. Let yourself feel the significance of the moment, even if you don't yet see the full picture. It can also be helpful during this time to ground your energy in simple, conscious practices. Spending time in nature, even briefly, can be incredibly supportive, bringing awareness to your breath. Just a few slow, steady inhales and exhales can help you stay centered as the energy moves. You might also consider journaling, not as a way to figure everything out, but as a way to listen more deeply to yourself. You could ask gentle questions such as, what have I been learning about myself recently? Where have I been choosing growth over comfort? What feels more aligned now than it did before? These are not questions that require immediate answers. They are invitations to connect with the deeper currents of your experience. Because what this Capricorn moon is really offering you is a moment of integration, a moment where the emotional and the practical come together, where your inner growth begins to reflect in your outer reality. And this is where the sense of reward begins to emerge. Not as something separate from you, but as a natural extension of who you are becoming. There is also something important to understand about timing here. Capricorn is associated with long-term cycles. It doesn't rush, it builds. And so even if the rewards begin to appear suddenly, they are rooted in a much longer journey. A journey that you have been on, whether consciously or not, for quite some time. This can bring a deep sense of validation, not in an external ego-driven way, but in a quiet inner knowing that says, I am on the right path. And that knowing can be incredibly stabilizing, especially if you have been navigating uncertainty or if you have felt like you were moving forward without clear confirmation. This energy begins to offer you a sense of direction, a sense of purpose that feels grounded and real. At the same time, there may still be elements of release occurring. Capricorn does not hold on to what is no longer structurally sound. If something is not aligned with your long-term growth, it may naturally begin to fall away during this period. And while that can sometimes feel uncomfortable, it is ultimately creating space for something more aligned to take its place. So if you find yourself letting go of something, even something you once valued, trust that this is part of the rebalancing. Trust that what is leaving is making room for what is ready to arrive. And as we continue to move through this energy, there is a sense that we are only just beginning to see the first signs of what this shift will bring. There is more unfolding here, more layers revealing themselves, more opportunities for alignment and growth. What matters most is how you meet this moment with presence, with openness, with a willingness to trust the process, even when it doesn't fully make sense, because this is not just a moment of change. It is a moment of becoming. As this energy continues to unfold, what becomes increasingly apparent is that this Capricorn moon is not simply about external rewards or visible progress. It is about a deep recalibration of your inner foundation. And from that foundation, everything else begins to take shape in a more aligned and sustainable way. There is a quiet invitation here to reflect on what true success means to you now, not based on past definitions or societal expectations, but based on who you have become through your experiences. Capricorn, in its highest expression, is not concerned with status for its own sake. It seeks meaning, integrity, and a sense of purpose that can stand the test of time. So you may find yourself asking different questions than you once did. Instead of, what can I achieve? You might be asking, what feels truly aligned with my soul? Instead of, how can I prove myself? It becomes, where can I express my authentic self with clarity and confidence? These are subtle shifts, but they are incredibly powerful, because when your motivations change, your entire trajectory begins to shift as well. And this is where the concept of karmic reward becomes even more meaningful. Karma is often misunderstood as something external, something that happens to us. But in truth, it is deeply connected to the energy we embody and the choices we make over time. It is a reflection of alignment when you consistently choose growth, honesty, and self-awareness. Even when it is difficult, you begin to create a different energetic pattern. And that pattern naturally draws in experiences that resonate with it. So if you are beginning to notice moments of ease where there was once struggle, or support where there was once resistance, this is not random. It is a reflection of that inner shift. You may also notice that certain things no longer require the same level of effort. Doors that once felt firmly closed may begin to open with surprising fluidity. Conversations may flow more easily. Decisions may feel clearer. There is a sense that you are no longer pushing against the current, but moving with it. This is one of the subtle indicators that you are in alignment with the energy of this transit. At the same time, there is still a strong Saturnian influence here, which means that any rewards or opportunities that arise are likely to come with a sense of responsibility, not in a burdensome way, but in a way that invites you to step more fully into your own authority. You may be asked to lead in some capacity, to make decisions with greater clarity, or to commit more deeply to a path that is opening before you. And while this can feel significant, it is also a reflection of the trust that has been built through your previous choices. You are being met at the level you are now ready to hold. And that is something to honor. It's also worth noting that as the moon moves through Capricorn, it can bring up themes around emotional self-sufficiency. You may feel less inclined to seek external validation and more attuned to your own inner guidance. This can be incredibly empowering, but it can also feel unfamiliar if you are used to looking outside yourself for reassurance. So if you notice moments of solitude or introspection, rather than interpreting them as isolation, you might gently reframe them as opportunities to deepen your connection with yourself. There is wisdom in your stillness. There is clarity in your quiet. And in that space, you may begin to hear your own inner voice more clearly than ever before. Now, alongside this grounded Capricorn energy, we continue to have the influence of Pisces, which is adding a layer of sensitivity and spiritual awareness to the experience. Pisces is the energy of compassion, intuition, and transcendence. It dissolves boundaries and invites us to connect with something greater than ourselves. So while Capricorn is helping you build and define your path, Pisces is reminding you to stay open, to stay connected to your heart, and to trust the unseen aspects of your journey. This combination can be incredibly powerful healing. You may find that old emotional patterns are rising to the surface, not to overwhelm you, but to be acknowledged and released. There may be moments of deep insight where you suddenly understand something about your past in a new way. And with that understanding can come a sense of peace, a sense of closure that allows you to move forward more freely. If this happens, be gentle with yourself. There is no need to rush the process or to force clarity. Simply allow whatever arises to be felt without judgment. You might find it helpful to place your hand over your heart, to take a few slow breaths, and to remind yourself that you are safe to feel what you are feeling. This is part of the integration. And as you move through this, you may also begin to notice subtle shifts in your relationships. Capricorn energy tends to highlight what is stable and what is not. It brings a kind of clarity to the structures within your life, including the connections you have with others. So you may find that certain relationships feel more grounded, more supportive, more aligned with who you are now. At the same time, others may feel less resonant. This is not about judgment or separation in a harsh sense. It is simply about recognizing where your energy naturally flows and where it does not, and allowing yourself to honor that with compassion for both yourself and others. In some cases, this may lead to deeper, more meaningful connections. In others, it may involve creating gentle boundaries or allowing some distance to emerge naturally. Trust that this too is part of the rebalancing. Another aspect of this transit that is worth exploring is the relationship between effort and timing. Capricorn teaches us the value of consistent effort, of showing up, of doing the work, even when results are not immediately visible. But it also teaches us that there is a right time for things to come into form. And that timing is not always something we can control. So if you've been putting in effort without seeing immediate results, this period may begin to shift that, not necessarily in a dramatic or overwhelming way, but in subtle, meaningful steps that indicate progress. You might receive feedback that affirms your direction. You might notice small signs that something is beginning to take root. And these signs, while perhaps quiet, are deeply significant. They are reminders that your efforts have not been in vain. They are confirmations that something is growing beneath the surface. And as this growth continues, there is an increasing sense that you are being supported in ways that you may not have fully recognized before. This support can come in many forms. It may come through people who offer guidance or encouragement. It may come through opportunities that align with your path, or it may come through a deep inner knowing that you are being guided, even when the path is not entirely clear. Allow yourself to receive this support. You do not have to do everything alone. And in fact, one of the gifts of this energy is the realization that true strength does not come from isolation, but from alignment with yourself, with your purpose, and with the greater flow of life. As you continue to move through this Capricorn moon, there is a sense that something is solidifying within you. A sense of direction, a sense of clarity, a sense of readiness. And from this place, the next steps on your path begin to reveal themselves, not all at once, but in a way that feels manageable, grounded, and deeply aligned with who you are becoming. There is a very gentle yet unmistakable momentum building now, and you may begin to sense it not so much in dramatic outer changes, but in the way you feel within yourself. A quiet confidence, a steadiness, a sense that something has shifted, even if you can't yet fully articulate what it is. This is often how true transformation begins to reveal itself, not with noise or urgency, but with a deep inner knowing that you are no longer where you once were. And as this Capricorn moon continues to anchor these energies, it brings with it a heightened awareness of where your life is asking for refinement, not in a critical or harsh way, but in a way that supports your evolution. Capricorn is deeply connected to mastery, and mastery is not about perfection. It is about conscious awareness, about making choices that are aligned with your highest integrity again and again. So you may find yourself becoming more discerning, more aware of where your energy is going, more intentional about how you spend your time, who you share your space with, and what you say yes to. This is a sign of growth, because as your frequency shifts, your capacity to recognize what truly nourishes you becomes clearer. And with that clarity comes the ability to make choices that support your long-term well-being rather than temporary comfort. Now, alongside this, there is also an activation taking place in relation to Mars, particularly as it moves through Aries. Mars in Aries is a very different energy from Capricorn, and yet they can work together in a beautifully complementary way. Where Capricorn is steady and strategic, Aries is bold and initiating. It brings a spark, a willingness to take action, to move forward with courage and determination. So while the Capricorn moon is helping you ground and stabilize, Mars in Aries is quietly encouraging you to take steps in alignment with what you now know to be true. This might show up as a sudden urge to act on something you've been considering for a while. A conversation you've been meaning to have, a decision you've been postponing, a step that once felt uncertain but now feels clear. And what is important here is not the size of the action, but the alignment behind it. Even the smallest step, when taken from a place of clarity and authenticity, can create a powerful ripple effect. At the same time, Mars energy can sometimes feel intense, especially if there has been a build up of emotion or tension. You may notice moments of impatience or a desire to move faster than the situation allows. If this arises, it's helpful to come back to your breath, to your body, to the grounding influence of Capricorn. There is no need to rush. What is meant for you is not going to pass you by because you took a moment to move with awareness. In fact, it is often in those moments of pause that the most aligned actions become clear. Now, as we continue to explore the deeper layers of this energy, it becomes apparent that this is not only about individual transformation, but also about your place within the collective. Capricorn is connected to the larger structures of society, to the systems we participate in, and to the roles we play within them. So you may find yourself reflecting on how your personal growth connects to something greater. Where do your skills, your insights, your experiences have the potential to contribute in a meaningful way? Where are you being called to step into a role that not only supports your own evolution, but also serves others? These are questions that may begin to surface, not as pressure, but as a natural extension of your growth. Because as you become more aligned within yourself, there is often a desire to share that alignment in a way that is constructive and supportive to the wider world. This does not have to be something grand or overwhelming. It can be expressed in the way you show up in your daily life, in the kindness you offer, in the integrity you hold, in the presence you bring to your interactions. These are all ways in which your inner work begins to ripple outward. And this is where the idea of karmic reward takes on an even deeper meaning, because the rewards are not only for you, they are also part of a larger energetic exchange. As you align with your truth, you contribute to the collective field in a way that supports others in doing the same. There is a kind of resonance that builds, a shared frequency that begins to emerge. And this is part of the broader awakening that so many are experiencing at this time. Now, within this process, there may also be moments where you are asked to trust yourself in new ways. But for now, there is also something to be said for simply recognizing the significance of where you are, for allowing yourself to feel the quiet strength that has brought you here, and for meeting this moment not with urgency, not with expectation, but with a calm, steady presence that says, in its own gentle way, I am ready